This is a lesson, Algebra 2, Day 24, Rationalizing Denominators and Writing Quadratic Equations. Students will rationalize denominators with square roots and write quadratic equations with given square roots. These are the steps for rationalizing denominators. Okay, number one. Since we have a square root at the bottom, there's 3 steps. If the denominator is a square root, multiply the denominator and numerator with itself. So in this example, it's just the denominator by itself is the square root. So it's just square root of 3. So all we need to do here is multiply it with itself, square root of 3, and multiply the numerator, square root of 3. Okay? So, numerator first. Since these are both square root signs, the square root of 4 and square root of 3, we can multiply them. So 4 times 3 is 12, and then we keep that in the square root. Okay? The denominator, square root of 3 times the square root of 3, since they're both square roots, square root of 3 times 3 is square root of 9. Then we simplify. The numerator is like saying square root of 4 times 3, and the denominator is just 3, right? The numerator, again, I could simplify. Square root of 4 is 2. The 3 can't make it out, so the 3 stays inside the square root. The denominator stays as 3. We've just rationalized the denominator. Okay? Again, from the top, square root of 4 over 3. Let's say this was your answer. Square root of 4 over square root of 3. We don't like a square root in the denominator. So since there's just a square root in the denominator, we use step 1. If the denominator is a square root, multiply the denominator and numerator with itself. So square root of 3 times square root of 3, and then square root of 3 in the numerator times the square root of 4. Since we're multiplying square roots together, we multiply square root of 4 times square root of 3 is equal to square root of 12. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is equal to square root of 9. Then we simplify. 12 is like saying 4 times 3, square root of 4 times 3. Square root of 9 is 3. And then the numerator we can simplify. Square root of 4 is 2 times square root of 3 over 3. That's number 1. Here's number 2. Number 2. Okay? Number 2, it says we're not going to use step 1 because the denominator is not just the square root, it's actually a binomial. If it's a binomial, multiply both the numerator and denominator with the conjugate. Okay? So, the conjugate of the denominator is 2 plus rad 3. And we use the conjugate because we could apply the difference of squares on the binomial. Okay, so the numerator, you just distribute the 2 into your conjugate. So 2 times 2 is 4. And then 2 times rad 3. Remember that there's going to be a coefficient of 1 in front of this rad 3. There's an imaginary coefficient of 1 in front of the rad 3. So we do the coefficient. 2 times 1 is 2. It's positive 2. And then there's nothing to multiply the rad 3 with, so you just bring it across, rad 3. Okay, hopefully you're all watching this, okay? Pencils down, pencils down. Denominator, it's a difference of squares problem, so square the first term. 2 times 2 is 4. Then the denominator, we're also going to put a minus because we have a minus and a plus. We have rad 3 times rad 3, which is rad 9. Okay? Then we simplify it again. The denominator, we could simplify. The numerator we can't. So 4 plus 2 rad 3 over 4 minus square root of 9 is 3. Simplify this. 4 and minus 3 is going to be 1. We can't. 4 minus 3 is 1. So 4 plus 2 rad 3 over 1, and anything over itself is just, or anything over 1 is just itself. So it's 4 plus 2 rad 3 is your answer. That's for number 2. Okay? Now this will be very tricky because this is the first time you're dealing with multiplying square roots, from what I could tell. But the real issue is you have to know that whenever we have a square root in the denominator, we don't like it in math. We like multiplying it with itself if it's just a single radical, or with its conjugate if it's a binomial. we have to get rid of the square root, okay? We don't like it in our denominator. So in this example, this is the simplified version. It's just a simplifying step, okay? You'll get used to it as we use it more. All right, any questions on numbers 1 and 2? Okay, this time I want the 2's to tell the 1's how we do number 1. 1's to tell the 2's how we do number 2. Ready, set, go. Okay, continuing, number 3. By yourselves, you're working on number 3 by yourselves. I'll just give you a little hint. Okay. Oh, by the way, class, would you apply step 1 or step 2 to number 3? 1 or 2? Is the denominator a binomial? No, so you apply step 1, okay? So if you were to do that, step 1 would look as follows. You would just multiply with itself with the denominator. And remember the denominator, this is how you multiply. Watch right now before you move on. Watch. 9 times 9 is equal to 81. And then rad 2 times rad 2 is equal to rad 4. That's the denominator. The numerator I want you to do by yourself, okay? Ready? Go. So, on this step, on the numerator, 7 times 9 is 63. Okay, and then the rad 2 is not being multiplied with anything else, so you just bring that across. Now we simplify the denominator one more time. We got 63 rad 2. Bring that down in my the numerator down, and then the denominator is like saying 81 times 2, right? Because rad 4 is really 2. Simplify again. Yeah, because what's the square root of 4?
Would we multiply or add it?
Now we're going to multiply because there's an imaginary multiply sign between them. So we got 63 rad 2 over 162. What's the common factor that goes into both 63 and 162? 9. Okay. So it goes in 7 times here, and it goes in 18 times here. Is that what I got? Okay. So now we got 7 rad 2 over 18. Okay. So about half of you got it. So we're going to do another one. Ready? Number 4. This one's going to be a little bit different. Turn to your neighbor and tell him what step you would do. Number 1 or 2. Okay, number 4, you have a binomial in the denominator. You have a binomial in the denominator. So you have step 2, you multiply by the conjugate. So it's 4 minus 3 rad 2. You multiply that in both the numerator and the denominator. Okay? Now, in this example here, we need to multiply numerator with this binomial. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And since this negative 3 is being multiplied with the 2, you have to bring this across. You have to have this rad 2 here. Okay? There's no other radicals to multiply. Denominator now. Multiply 4 times 4 is 16. This is a difference of squares. That's why we use a conjugate in math, because it's a difference of squares. So you have to put a minus sign. Then you square the second term. 3 times 3 is 9. And then rad 2 times rad 2 is rad 4. Okay? And then we continue on here. We have 8 minus 6 rad 2. We bring that down. Actually, I'll bring it across here to save some space. Over 16 minus. Now let's think about this. What's the square root of 4, everyone?
2.
So what's 9 times 2? 18. Everyone see that? Okay, continuing on. 16 minus 18 is negative 2. That's going to be my denominator now. Bring down the numerator. 8 minus 6 rad 2. Almost done. Remember this sign right here. What's the division? There you go. What's the fraction sign mean here? Division. Okay, so what's 8 divided by negative 2? Negative 4. What's negative 6 divided by negative 2? Positive 3 rad 2. Okay? I'm going to give you a moment to write this down in your notes correctly because I think a lot of us didn't get this one. So, okay, that's the answer. So this would be an answer you would get on a math problem. You would simplify it down to this. Okay?
What's after 3?
Okay, these are the steps for writing quadratic equations. Okay, I'll do number 1, and number 2 I'm going to switch up a little bit because I don't like number 2 the way I wrote it. Okay, number 1, just watch right now. Step 1, you're going to use the zero product property. Okay, well actually recall this, we're going backwards. From before you used to be able to take like this answer x minus 3 times x minus 5 is equal to 0. Remember this a couple days ago? What are my answers going to be? X is equal to what? And x is equal to what? 5. That's because of the zero product property. Okay, these are the answers from this, right? Today we're going to take the answers and go backwards and write the equation out. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're just going backwards now. So, here we go. Let me erase all this. So, we have the answers. You get 2 answers. It says draw a quadratic equation that's positive. Positive means it opens up, okay? So if you wanted to draw that, all you have to do is you'd write by starting with 2 binomials. We're dealing with, and it's set to y, okay? And we're dealing with 2 answers. We're going to do the zero product property. So if x is equal to 3, you'd write x minus 5. And then you'd write x minus 3 as your 2 answers, right? 5 and 3 are your 2 answers. Just bring them down. Just watch right now. No pencils, no pencils. Please stop the pencils. Thank you, okay? You'll get a chance to write. Then you multiply across. You FOIL and simplify. So we got x squared minus 3x minus 5x plus, oh, that's not an x. Minus 5x plus 15 is equal to y. Okay. Simplify that. X cubed, x squared minus 8x plus 15 is equal to y. And I kind of like putting y in the front. Y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 15. That's it. This is the converted... this is the quadratic now, okay? That's number 1. For number 2, I'm going to give you a different problem, okay? Shh. Let's say our set said positive I rad 4 and negative I rad 4. Okay, same thing, you start with y is equal to, do 2 binomials being equal to each other, and then you start with x minus I rad 4 and x plus I rad 4. Then you would FOIL it across or multiply across, and we get x squared plus I rad 4 x minus I rad 4 x minus I squared rad 16. Okay? Then we simplify. This is all equal to y, by the way. We got y is equal to x squared. These 2 terms cancel out, and all I'm left with is negative I squared. What's I squared really equal to, class? I squared is equal to negative, right? So a negative negative is really a positive. Okay?
4. Negative 4.
Oh, and this is actually supposed to be a positive here. This is a positive sign, right? Because we have negative times the negative. Oh, no, that's right. So we got a negative negative is a positive 16. Okay? And that's your answer right here. Or positive 4. I'm sorry, is it 4? 4. Sorry about that. Number 3. Number 3. You're all doing number 3. Quiet down. Here we go. This is the answer for this one. It's going to be y is equal to d squared plus 3d minus 54. Okay, number 4. Ready? Oh, that's not what I want. Not that one. I want you to do 4 as follows.
On the whiteboard?
Yep. Shh. I want you to tell me, these are the two roots are 2. The roots are 2. This is the only root, okay? But it's a quadratic, which means there should be 2 answers, right? 2 answers. Would you agree with me? 2 answers? Okay. Remember, you always start off with a binomial. Y is equal to equal. Oh, that's it. Yep. There's 2 answers, right? So first thing you want to do is, I'll give you a hint, x minus. Okay, go. In order to solve this, you put a 2 here and here. And then you have to FOIL it, right? Just like before. So you have x squared minus 2x plus 4. Okay? And this is a y is in the front. Then we simplify, combine like terms, x squared minus 4x plus 4. There you go. That's your answer. That's your answer, kiddos. Okay? There you go. Yep.